In the quiet suburban town of Maplewood, Daniel Reed's life seemed almost too perfect. At 31, he had achieved the kind of success people twice his age were still chasing. With his crisp suits, confident smile, and gentle manners, Daniel was admired by neighbors, respected by colleagues, and loved by his new wife, Emily. Their wedding, held at a countryside resort, was elegant and joyful, the type of event that drew envy and admiration alike. Guests left talking about how genuine the couple looked, how deeply in love they seemed, and how lucky Emily was to have found someone like him. To everyone around them, Daniel was the kind of man who did everything right. But behind the flawless image was a secret Daniel had buried deep, one that was about to unravel his perfect world. Months before he met Emily, Daniel had been involved with another woman named Jessica Lane. Jessica was 28, a nurse who worked long hours at a local clinic. She was independent and confident, with a soft smile that had first caught Daniel's attention during a routine checkup. What started as friendly conversation soon turned into late-night talks, secret dinners, and promises neither of them were ready to keep. Daniel told himself their relationship was harmless, something temporary to fill the empty spaces in his life. But Jessica saw it differently. She believed what they had was real. She imagined a future with him, one where he would eventually commit and build a life together. When Daniel began seeing Emily, he convinced himself he could handle both relationships. He compartmentalized his life carefully, weekend dates with Jessica, weekday dinners with Emily, and a constant juggling act of lies that somehow always seemed to work. When Daniel proposed to Emily, he never told Jessica. He avoided her calls for days, making excuses about work and travel. But the truth eventually found its way to her. One evening, while scrolling through social media, Jessica's heart sank. Her screen lit up with photos from Daniel's engagement party, his arm wrapped around Emily, both smiling brightly. The man who had whispered about a future together was now promising it to someone else. The betrayal left her heartbroken and furious. For days, she replayed every moment they had shared, searching for signs she had missed. Meanwhile, Daniel carried on as if nothing had happened. He focused on planning the wedding, smiling for pictures, and creating the illusion of a fresh start. But deep inside, he lived with a quiet dread, knowing Jessica was still out there, carrying his secret. As the wedding day came and went, Daniel told himself it was over, that she would move on, that no one would ever know. But guilt doesn't stay buried for long. While guests danced and toasted under string lights, Daniel's mind wandered to the woman he had left behind. He didn't know it yet, but the choice he made that night, to pretend it never happened, would become the first step toward a tragedy that would destroy everything he had built. A week after the wedding, Daniel's new life began to lose its shine. What was supposed to be a honeymoon phase quickly turned into restless nights and constant anxiety. He smiled beside his wife, but behind that calm expression was growing panic. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart skipped a beat. He feared it would be her, Jessica. And soon his fears came true. Her name appeared on his screen one evening while he and Emily were watching television. He ignored it, hoping she would stop. But she didn't. The messages kept coming, each one more desperate than the last. Jessica had discovered she was pregnant. At first, she didn't want to believe it. But after visiting her doctor, the test confirmed what she already suspected. She tried to reach Daniel for days, needing to tell him the truth. When she realized he was intentionally avoiding her, her hurt turned to anger. She sent him a message that changed everything. She said she would tell his wife if he didn't talk to her. That single threat shattered Daniel's fragile calm. He sat in his home office staring at his phone, reading her message over and over. His thoughts twisted between guilt and fear. If Emily found out, his perfect image would collapse. His marriage, his reputation, and his job all depended on keeping his life spotless. He imagined the gossip, the shame, and the disgust in Emily's eyes. It would destroy him. He texted Jessica back, asking her not to do anything rash, promising they could work something out. She agreed to talk, but her tone was different now, firm, demanding, and angry. She wasn't willing to be hidden anymore. Over the next few days, the situation worsened. Jessica sent him photos of her pregnancy test and the ultrasound appointment slip. She told him she wanted him to take responsibility, to tell his wife the truth before she did. Daniel's mind spiraled into panic. He tried to buy time by offering money and saying he would support the baby quietly, but Jessica refused. She told him she wouldn't be a secret any longer. Every message she sent became a reminder that his double life was collapsing. Daniel began to feel trapped, like a man cornered by his own lies. He couldn't confide in anyone, not even his closest friends. Outwardly, he appeared normal, going to work, smiling at his wife, but inside he was unraveling. His sleep grew shallow, his appetite faded, and his mind raced with impossible solutions. He thought about confessing, then imagined the consequences and backed away from the idea. The fear of losing everything outweighed any sense of morality left in him. By the 5th day after the wedding, Jessica's patience had run out. She sent one final message. If he didn't meet her face to face, she would go to Emily herself. That night, Daniel sat in his car for hours, replaying every mistake he had made. His mind darkened with a single chilling thought. If Jessica was gone, the problem would disappear with her. What started as a moment of panic began to harden into a plan. Daniel spent the next morning rehearsing what he would say. His hands trembled as he typed the message asking Jessica to meet him. He chose his words carefully, pretending to be calm and remorseful. He told her he wanted to make things right, that he needed to see her in person to talk about the baby and their future. Jessica agreed without hesitation, believing it was the moment he would finally accept responsibility. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of hope. She didn't know that she was walking straight into a trap. Daniel chose the meeting spot carefully, the old Oak Ridge construction site on the edge of town. It had been abandoned for months, surrounded by half-built homes and piles of dirt. Few people went there anymore, especially during weekdays. It was the kind of place where silence stretched for miles. Daniel knew it was perfect. He convinced himself it would be a simple conversation, but deep down, a darker plan was already forming. He couldn't see a way out of his lies except through finality. Jessica arrived that afternoon, parking her small blue car near the edge of the dirt road. The sun was bright, and the air carried a faint warmth, making everything appear calm and harmless. She waited for a few minutes, fixing her hair in the car mirror, unaware that her last moments were approaching. Daniel arrived soon after, his car pulling up behind hers. From a distance, he looked composed, but inside, his thoughts were spiraling out of control. Every heartbeat reminded him of what he was about to do. When he stepped out, he carried with him a heavy silence. He had rehearsed a dozen explanations in his head, but none of them sounded convincing. Jessica approached him, hopeful yet hurt, holding a small folder containing her medical documents, proof of her pregnancy. She believed this meeting would end the lies. For a moment, Daniel felt a flicker of regret, but it was quickly drowned by fear. She opened the folder and showed him the ultrasound picture, her voice filled with emotion as she said she was going to tell Emily everything. That was the moment everything broke. Panic gripped Daniel like a vice. He couldn't think, couldn't reason, only react. In a surge of rage and desperation, he lunged at her. The struggle was brief but violent, echoing through the empty site. When it was over, Jessica lay motionless on the dusty ground, the folder scattered beside her. Daniel froze, staring in disbelief at what he had done. Minutes passed before he moved again. His breathing steadied as the realization settled in. There was no turning back now. Acting on instinct, he dragged her body toward a half-dug drainage pit at the far end of the site. He covered her with dirt, concrete debris, and broken boards, concealing every trace of what had happened. He wiped her car door handles clean, collected her phone, and drove away slowly, checking his mirrors as though afraid the truth would follow him home. That night, he sat across from his wife at the dinner table, nodding at her words, pretending to listen. His hands no longer trembled, his voice no longer shook. To Emily, he looked calm. But in Daniel's eyes, something had changed forever. 2 days after the meeting at the construction site, Jessica's absence began to draw concern. She was known for being reliable, never missing a work shift or ignoring calls from friends. When she didn't show up at the clinic, her coworkers assumed she was sick. By the second day, when her phone went straight to voicemail and messages remained unread, the worry turned into panic. Her closest friend, Melissa, tried to recall the last time she had seen Jessica. It was the night before her disappearance, when Jessica mentioned she was finally going to confront Daniel about the pregnancy. That detail stayed with Melissa, and she knew exactly who to call. When Melissa reached out to Daniel, his tone was calm, too calm. He said he hadn't spoken to Jessica in weeks, claiming their relationship ended long before his wedding. He even sounded surprised by the news that she was missing, pretending to be concerned. But after hanging up, Daniel's heart raced. He knew it was only a matter of time before the police got involved. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every sound outside felt louder. Every passing car made him look out the window, expecting flashing lights. Jessica's family filed a missing person report the next morning. Detectives began their investigation by tracing her phone's last location. The signal led them to the outskirts of Oak Ridge near the abandoned construction site. When officers arrived, they found her car parked on a dirt path. The driver's door was unlocked, and her purse sat on the passenger seat. Inside were her phone, keys, and the same ultrasound image she had shown Daniel. There were no signs of a struggle inside the car, but something about the scene felt off, too still, too deliberately untouched. Detectives searched the surrounding area. As they moved closer to the unfinished part of the site, one officer noticed tire marks and disturbed soil. Near the edge of a half-built drainage pit, they found what looked like a hastily covered mound of dirt. When investigators began to dig, the smell of decay confirmed their worst fears. Beneath the debris lay Jessica's body, hidden under a thin layer of soil and cement dust. The scene was grim, and it was clear that her death had not been an accident. News of the discovery spread quickly through Maplewood. The community that once admired Daniel and Emily now whispered about the murder that shattered their peaceful town. As detectives examined Jessica's phone, they uncovered dozens of messages between her and Daniel, proof of their affair, her pregnancy, and her growing frustration with his silence. Screenshots, voice recordings, and location data painted a devastating picture of deceit and betrayal. The evidence pointed directly to Daniel Reed. Detectives began quietly monitoring his movements, collecting security footage from nearby roads and analyzing his phone records. When they compared his GPS data with Jessica's last known location, it placed him near Oak Ridge at the exact time she disappeared. With each piece of evidence, the image of the perfect husband began to crumble. The man everyone admired was now the prime suspect in a murder investigation that would soon reveal the full depth of his lies. When detectives arrived at Daniel Reed's house early in the morning, the neighborhood watched in disbelief. Police cars lined the quiet suburban street where just a week ago Daniel and Emily had hosted a cheerful wedding brunch. Emily opened the door, confused, while Daniel stood frozen behind her. The detectives presented the search warrant and stepped inside, beginning the process of uncovering the truth he had worked so hard to hide. At first, Daniel tried to appear calm and cooperative. He insisted he had nothing to do with Jessica's disappearance, claiming they had ended their relationship months earlier. But as the search progressed, the cracks in his composure started to show. In the trunk of his car, forensic teams found faint traces of soil that matched the dirt from the Oak Ridge construction site. His shoes, hidden at the back of the closet, carried the same particles. When investigators checked his phone, they recovered deleted messages and location history that placed him exactly where Jessica's body had been found. Each discovery pulled another thread from the web of lies Daniel had built. The evidence was undeniable. When detectives brought him in for questioning, Daniel's confidence collapsed. After hours of silence, he finally confessed. His voice was flat as he described what happened that day, how he met Jessica, how she confronted him with the ultrasound photo, and how panic consumed him. He said it wasn't planned, that he just wanted to calm her down, but anger took over. He told the officers he didn't mean to kill her, that it all happened too fast. His words, however, did little to change the reality of what he had done. Emily sat in shock when she learned the truth. She couldn't reconcile the man she had married with the killer described on the evening news. Friends and neighbors who once admired Daniel avoided even saying his name. The story spread beyond Maplewood, capturing national attention. A newlywed man hiding a deadly secret, destroying 2 lives within days of his wedding. Every new detail made the case darker, every revelation a reminder of how easily charm could disguise cruelty. During the trial, prosecutors presented the evidence with precision. They showed the jury messages where Daniel promised Jessica a future, proof of her pregnancy, and surveillance footage of his car near the site. They painted him as a man obsessed with protecting his image, someone who valued reputation over responsibility. The defense tried to argue that the act was impulsive, born of panic rather than intent, but the jury wasn't convinced. The cold, methodical way Daniel hid her body and deleted evidence spoke of premeditation, not accident. After weeks of testimony, the verdict came: guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced Daniel Reed to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As he was led away in handcuffs, Emily wept quietly, her wedding ring still glinting under the courtroom lights. Jessica's family attended every hearing, clutching her photo, mourning the life and child taken too soon. Outside the courthouse, they spoke of justice, not relief. In Maplewood, Daniel's once praised name became a cautionary tale whispered among neighbors, proof that behind the perfect smiles and polished lives, the darkest secrets can hide, waiting for one moment to destroy everything.